Welcome to Transforming Math Classrooms, where innovation meets education. We equip teachers with game changing strategies to inspire students and unlock their full potential, because every classroom deserves transformation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know you probably agree with me. Let's be real. Too many kids hate math because it doesn't make sense to them. But what if the problem isn't the math? Maybe it's how we teach. I know you probably clicked off. Don't come on back. If you're tired of students memorizing formulas without understanding, struggling with engagement, right? Dreading math class, this episode is for you. My guest today, Dr. Kristopher Childs, is on a mission to change that. Right? As an educator, professor, consultant, keynote speaker, he's helped educators nationwide rethink how they teach math. So students actually get it and enjoy it, right? That is a complete sentence, right? Get it and enjoy it. So today, we're breaking down, just looking at strategies, just looking at his mixtape. Guys, listen, I saw the mixtape, I saw the beginning, and I just fell in love with it because it gives us groundwork on how to approach math. Now, get ready for a meaningful conversation, all right? Get ready, get yourself ready, let your neighbor share this with someone because this is going to be an impactful conversation. Now, I'm going to bring on my next guest to Transforming Math Classrooms, Dr. Childs, and I am excited about this. Dr. Childs, welcome.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here today, Coach. This is about to be an epic episode. Let's go.
All right, absolutely. So, my introduction to you was years ago on Twitter. Well, what do we call it now? It's X, Twitter.
No, it's still Twitter. In this day and age, you can make up names. We're going to keep it Twitter. We're not even going. Keep
We're
it
gonna
Twitter.
keep it right. Absolutely. And I want to show the guests before we get into this conversation. I want to show the guests this actual uh, where you caught my attention. I was able to connect with you, and it was this picture right here on YouTube. Make sure you go and follow Dr. Childs, DRK Childs. Make sure you go to YouTube right now, follow him because he has a mixtape. And this is not the first mixtape, okay? And this is the thing that drew me into the conversation. And I'm excited to jump in. And it's up to you now. I'm a math guy. So I'm excited about this conversation. So where do we start when it comes down to I see mixtape number one and it's just starting. What does a young math educator or a seasoned math educator, where do they start? Because we all need a starting point.
And you got to fall in love with what you're doing. I entitled this a mixtape series because we've all been to professional learning. We've all had these traditional mechanisms. I have a lot of books behind me that we've read, and all of those things are great. But we need to think through something refreshed of how we deliver and engage in professional learning. And that's where the whole series come from. And you ask the key question, how do you start? You just start. Mathematics is all around us, and oftentimes we think it has to be in a certain manner, a certain method, a certain pedagogical philosophy of how we teach. But to teach in math, you just start. And when you realize when you just start, math is all around you, then you rock and roll and get into some procedures and different things, especially with children in your classroom. But you got to start. A lot of folks, as you mentioned in your intro, hate math. Here's the thing, though, and we'll talk about it. They don't hate math; they hate the context it was put in. So my charge right now in life is to change the context that we teach math so every single child, not some children, not those children, every single child sees themselves within the experience and they see the value add of mathematics to their life, which would then impact families and then impact communities.
Right, absolutely. And I love how you title your first track, right? Your first track is just math made simple. Sometimes I guess we are the outliers. We love math, right? But we have to make it simple enough for children, yet relatable and not moving away from the actual meaning, staying in context, focusing on what the standard says. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but making it simple enough so that it can get to the children.
Right. And the key was we're going to keep talking about children this entire episode. Notice I intentionally say children, I don't say students, Students are very formulaic, so no matter if they're in pre-K all the way through high school, they're children. They're somewhat pride and joy. Oftentimes, we make children adults too soon. Let them be children. They're learning. They're quirky. They're doing all the things, and we can showcase math how it applies to their lives. And as you said, we're gonna keep it simple. Why keep the complex, making it so complex and hard that folks can't engage in it? They don't want to do math. Everybody can do math. Period.
Yeah, I agree. And even moving into track two, where we talk about, and this is just a big thing, right? So I don't know in your area, but for us in Mississippi, the whole idea of building the basics and state standards, right? So can we kind of step into this whole idea of state standards? Uh, it, when you use the word Common Core in Mississippi, it was just haywire. I don't know how it is where you are.
So here we go. So as we're unpacking and folks that are listening to this, he's talking about a mixtape series. So it breaks about out how to essentially structure your classroom by your lesson. And I always start with what are the standards? Why is that important? I am pro Common Core. I know a lot of people listening like, what? Why would you be pro? That's the dirty word, the new math. First, I want to make I want to make sure everyone understands what it is. Then we'll talk about state standards.
Yeah,
As it relates to Common Core, that provided national standards across the country. In the US, we've always had these shifts, and we've called them the math wars of how we teach math and in what manner. We finally got to a place where we had Common Core standards. Now, before you all get upset and turn off this episode, think about this. We're talking about children. If a child lives in Mississippi in third grade and that child's family moves to California while that child is still in third grade, should they be learning the same content in Mississippi and California as a third grader? That child did not wake up and say, I want to move. Family circumstances required the child to move. So when we had the Common Core standards, it was common sense. All children in a united country have the opportunity to learn the same content. Simple as that. And it's not about this new math. It goes back to math wars. Should we teach procedurally, just how to get the answer, or should we teach conceptually? What we found through research and through practicality, when you teach the conceptual piece first, the procedure makes sense. That was the whole movement, and it would have transformed this country for the better. But now we're back to the place of every state being individual, which is why we started this mixtape off with what are your standards? Because every state has standards.
correct.
Some states, I'm gonna be honest, they took the Common Core title, changed the name to their state, and they moved forward, which I actually supported that idea. The Common Core standards were never perfect, but they were a great starting ground to build upon. Some states created their own version of their state standards from scratch. And to be honest, a lot of them are not good because they just went with a crowdsourcing approach, and that's going to hurt children. So we start off with the standards, whether you like your state standards or not, and that's not the point. When you're teaching mathematics, at the end of the day, our job is to give them a grade level experience aligned to the standards because at the end of the year, whether you like it or not, they're going to get tested.
Right.
We have to prepare them for that test. So, my non negotiable, no matter where I go, what are the standards? We merit to those standards.
Absolutely. That's perfect. And give the audience, proper context on the of the mixtape. Of course, it's on YouTube, but you go through it and you lay out the plan for whether you're a first year teacher or whether
Mm-hmm.
you are 5, 6 years or a seasoned teacher. It gives you great context on how to approach not new math. Let's kind of move that away, but how to approach math that helps impact instruction. So, I want to give everybody that proper context to our conversation, and I want to move into you're talking about the standards, but I want to talk about having clear goals. Like what's can you talk to us a little bit about just having clear goals and having a big impact? You put those two together. Let's kind of break that up. Talk to me.
So here's the thing. We start off, think about levels to this. The young folks says there are levels to this. When teaching math, there's levels to this.
Yeah.
You have your standards. Oftentimes, the standards, think about this as something overarching what you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
With that bigger umbrella, how do we make it a little bit smaller for what we're specifically going to focus on for that class period? For example, the standard may talk about adding and subtracting within 100, which I actually love. That's one of my favorite topics. But for the class, we may actually only focus on addition for that lesson. So while the standard is adding and subtracting within 100, the bigger thing,
Hmm.
we break it down to what are we actually going to learn that day? Adding within 100. And the key is why I put the part big impact, because we can focus on what we're doing. Think about when you send home independent practice for children to work on with their families. They want to help. But when they read the standard, they naturally going to get confused.
Correct.
But your learning goals should be specific and concise where anybody can read it and say, oh, you all are adding today within 100. Got it. Let me work with it. So you want to be specific, you want to be clear, and you want to articulate that goal to students, because children, because the learning process in mathematics is not, it shouldn't be a surprise. Like, gotcha, this is what we're doing. Tell them up front, this is what we're working through today. That way, when they get ready and get into math, they don't see it as a confusing subject. So you start off first. What are your goals? Boom, got that. Next, your learning goals. The great thing about it, when you're using high quality instructional materials, these things are already laid out. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. You don't have to quote unquote figure it out. This is already laid out for you.
Oh, no, that's good because I guess for me now I'm more middle school, high school, and I have my younger son that's in third grade, and it's like, ooh, Lord, yeah, I got a math degree, but okay, we're using other terms, and of course, we have to make that adjustment because you want to make sure that your children are successful. I can really see the disconnect sometimes parents have when, okay, you got standard 3081 is coming home. They're like, what are you talking about? What is this? What's going on here?
And that's part of the reason I made the mixtape and teaching math made simple. Be honest, educators, we make the simple complex a lot of times. And I get, we got to have the right terminology, Chris. We got to use that right, the things that the state gives us. But if it does not make sense, how do you make it practical for the families? How do you make it practical for children so they can engage and be a part of it? There's no rule that says you have to list out, as Coach was saying, 3.08. What sense? No one knows what that means.
Right.
Put it in practical terms so families can help and get engaged and get involved and see what you're teaching their child is going to benefit them ultimately one day. Keep it simple.
And that was a term, not to bring sports in, but I'm a sports fanatic, former football coach, and it was the KISS method. Keep it super simple. Because if it becomes complex, I learned players don't play at the same they don't play at the same pace, or they don't play at the same level when they're confused and thinking. Like, don't. Yeah.
But nobody does. If you look at what's happening today in this U.S. society, right now, recording in 2025, depending upon how we're listening to it, what is winning? Simple messaging.
Yep.
How do we take, yes, the research, yes, all the theory, but make it practical so everyone can be engaged and be involved and feel a part of the process? Keep it simple.
Right. And I agree. So when we look at it, keeping it simple, it's just how do we make that connection for children? Now, and I like how you said that because many times I'm gonna use the words students or scholars, but I like you just that statement was help me to refocus when you think about transformation. Because sometimes we want them to move ahead quickly, but they need to stay children.
So here's the thing. We want to move ahead quickly, but I want us to think about this. Do you like popcorn, Coach?
Yeah, I like popcorn.
All right. I actually don't eat popcorn, but this works with an analogy. When you put popcorn in the microwave, about how long do you put popcorn in the microwave for?
I'm sorry to say I pressed the 30 seconds, so maybe 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, about 2 minutes. So all my listeners out there, I want you to drop in the chat how long you could cook my popcorn for. When you popping popcorn, at the end of 2 minutes, What do? You take that bag out the microwave and you what? Shake it.
Right. Yep.
Why do you shake it? Because some of the kernels have popped, some haven't popped. And when you shake it, if a lot of them haven't popped, what do? Put it back in the microwave, put some more heat to it.
Yep.
Why? Because you want more of them to pop.
Correct.
And eventually, at the end, unfortunately, sometimes all of them don't pop. But you pull it out because if you keep it in, it's gonna burn. Now, we patient. We take our time. We eat popcorn. We do movies and popcorn, and we add more heat to it. Children the same way. Children like popcorn. Some children gonna pop early, beginning of the year. Some gonna pop in the middle of the year. Some gonna pop in the end. The key is, are you willing to keep giving a little bit more heat? Be a little bit patient with them so they can get it, and then understanding if they don't pop in your room, guess what? You may have given them just enough heat so they pop when they get to the next class. The key is, are you willing, like you're patient for popcorn, to be patient for children to learn at their own pace to get an understanding of my favorite subject, your favorite subject, everybody's favorite subject, mathematics. Let them pop.
So, let me see how I'm going to say this. I'll give you credit for that analogy. All right. I'll cite your name, but consider that taken. I love that because that's what happens, and it makes it relevant to the educator that you're helping. That everybody's not going to pop at the same time. I love it. Oh, okay. I'll give you credit for it. You cite your name.
Hey, it's recorded. You can just show the video, just play the clip. Like, hey, I got something I want to tell y'all. Boom, here go the.
I got it, sir. I appreciate that one because it's going to be used. Facts, as the kids say. So I, I'll be honest. This next mixtape, uh, I was trying to get there fairly quickly because I love this whole idea. And here's what happened. I had an educator. Um, my fourth year of teaching, I was about to quit. I was about to just give up. I was like, man, I'm done with it. You might know of this person, Dr. Daughtery. She was one that really revolutionized how I approach math. That particular year I had my interaction with her, I changed how I taught mathematics. And it was based on when we talk about choosing the right tools and task. I didn't use that term, nor I knew what a task was. I knew the star problem in the book. That's what I knew. So can we lay that out right there? Choosing the right tools, good math task matter.
Let's do this. I want to lay out choosing it and then implement it so folks can see the bridge. Here's the key. When it comes to instructional materials, I'm gonna tell y'all a dirty little secret nobody ever told you all. Every problem in a math book is not a great problem to use. I know y'all look at the pages like, oh my gosh, there's so many pages. This is amazing. All
Right.
those problems are good. That's a marketing. You put a lot of problems on the page. You all look at it and think, oh my gosh, I got it all. That's not true. You have to be a critical consumer of the materials. That's why I came with track 4, choosing the right tools, but good math tasks matter. Every task is not the same. For me, in my environments, I always start with the word problems. And have you noticed the formula with most books? Some books have gotten better. Most have a bunch of rote routine problems in the beginning of practice. At the end, you have the verb problems or the star problems or higher order thinking problems. And if you have time, you get to them. You need to start with those. Those are the ones that can provide multiple entry points for every child to get engaged in the mathematics. Now, if you're using high quality instructional materials, all the tasks are not bad. What I'm saying is be a critical consumer of which ones do you need to engage based upon that learning goal and what do your children need in the moment. Choosing the right task is critical. When you use a rich problem solving task, when we get to implementation, it's going to be beautiful. If you don't use a rich problem solving task, you can't have an amazing implementation because it's so basic with few entry points. Most of the children are either going to get it or not get it, and that's it. You want to think, what are the word problems that I'm using to engage them in to think through? Now, before you all say, well, some of them can't read, the word problems are too tough, that's going to take too much time, I'm going to knock out all 3 of those really quick. If they cannot read and they can hear, you can read the problem to them, use one of the math language routines 3 read strategy that provides an entry point. What does it hurt to read a problem out loud. And that's not only for young learners, also for older learners. Because if they have the ability to hear, why are you allowing them not to get a math experience because they haven't gotten up to par with reading? We're going to build that over time. But first, make sure you do the 3 read strategy to make sure they can engage in the task. The second thing you're going to say, oh, Dr. Childs, I like that, but the context, it's too hard. We don't have enough time. If you're using this strategy, the key is less tasks, greater depth.
Mm,
Spend more time on the word problem. Provide everybody multiple entry points. That allows you to really unpack the mathematics as opposed to focus on just did I get an answer. And then my last, but this is one of my favorites. A lot of you are gonna say, "All right, Chris, I get it. I'm going to read it. 3 read strategy. I like that. Boom. Now I'm going to be patient. I know I can't do my usual 10 tasks. I may only get to 2 or 3 during my time block. Okay, but here's the thing. You see this context. They don't know this context, or this context doesn't make sense.
yeah,
You can change the context. Be married to the content. Never be married to the context. What context do your children like in your environment? Get to know them, develop a relationship with them, and pull in the context. This is not, oh my gosh, Chris, I like that. I'm going to put Chris's name in the problem. That don't matter if you put Chris's name in the problem. What I'm saying is think through what context are you using so they can engage within it. I was working with a group of children I'm always cautious to say where I'm going just because I don't want to give it away. But I was working with a school in the South and I was doing a math task and I was like, a group of children said, we like pizza. I said, oh my gosh, let's do
yeah,
pizza. Let's do
yeah,
pizza. One kid said, I hate pizza. I said,
right,
whoa, whoa, okay. How about this? This group do pizza? What do you like? I like ice cream. We're going to do ice cream. We still engage in a rich problem solving task. They still did the same thing. I wasn't married to the context. I was married to the content. They got pizza. He got ice cream.
yeah,
It didn't cost me anything. Then when I implement the task, that's what we talk about in task 5.
yeah,
My kids now, I want to just provide them with the task, give them the opportunity to independently work on it. Let them grapple with it a little bit.
yeah,
Then I'm going to let them turn and talk. Then I'm going to come back whole group and unpack the task. Why do it in that manner? Every child can contribute to your mathematics lesson when given the opportunity. When you provide them that space to independently work on it, you can circulate, see how they're doing.
yeah,
You can also have short conversations, see who knows what. Then when they do a turn and talk, they can start to talk to their neighbor and share, this is what I got. This is what I got. You're hearing their thinking again. Then when we come back whole group, I'm going to intentionally call upon children to share out their responses. Why? I heard them individually what they were thinking as I circulated. I heard them do it. I did a turn and talk. I heard them twice. So they can't say, Dr. Childs, I don't have anything to say. I'm scared. Whatever you just told me, say it whole group. That's validating their response. That's showing them they have value. And when I'm doing this, I'm building upon the responses. I'm not calling on the child who got all the problem solving part correct and the answer correct first. I'm calling on the child that can only tell me, Doc, we talking about pizza. Hey, my man, we talking about pizza. That's
yeah.
it. Who's the next? Who's next? And that's how we unlock a math class. And that's how every child gets involved and showcases their respective genius level potential. Come
Oh,
on, coach. Let's go. I'm rolling, coach. Let's go.
no, man. I have to listen. We could talk about it. Could be the rest of the time talking about this very thing because here's what happened to me before I learned this. What you're talking about before I learned this, I labeled students. Sorry, I did based on test scores. Labeled them, and I had we moved transitioned into this approach, and based on scores, I had a student that was quiet, didn't say anything, but the task that was put before the class, that student shined. And I mean by shined is what the kids, I was like, you got an A, you got an A, you got an A. They, this student was able to see things differently, but the task opened that student up to do what you're talking about right now. And it forever changed how I approach math. So, like what you're talking about right now, sir, go ahead, sir. I'm shutting up. I love it. Love it.
So we'll take it a step further. This is going to make people a little antsy, but my job is to push it.
Right.
Now, as we have these new looking at these tasks, we let them showcase their thinking and tell us, here's something. Every child has genius level potential in their own manner.
Mm,
Allow them to showcase it in their own manner. What do I mean? If you have a child who loves to write, I mean, just write paragraphs, instead of saying, hey, you have to do it this formulaic way, let them write it out in the story. If you have a child that, like me, I'm very vocal. This is my gift.
yeah,
Let me sit there and get, what does it take 30 seconds or 10 seconds for me to explain to you my thinking? Now, what if a child wants to, hey, I want to act it out and build it, go build it. You need manipulatives, do it. If they're showcasing how they do it in their own language or their own artistic form,
yes,
value that, build upon that. Yet, first, oh, what about the test? Well, guess what? If they don't engage, they're going to fail the test anyway. At the very least, give them something where they can feel a part, and then you can always slowly transition them. Hey, I love that story you wrote. It made perfect sense. I see the mathematics in it. Now I need you to translate it to this method so when you take the test, you're going to be fine. And guess what they're going to do? All right, Doc, I'm going to try
yep,
it. You showed me. I got the answer. It makes sense. Like I understand it. I just need to put it on this. All right, give me a chance, Doc. Hey, I got you. I got you. Let's go. We're a team. We're a team. You gonna pop. I know you're gonna pop. I know you can do the math. I just need to give it to you in the language. Then how do I know you can do the math? When I see you outside playing games, you're doing counting exercises depending upon the game to pick your teams.
right,
When I see you making a TikTok video and you know you only have so much time to make it, you're doing math. When I see you at the store about to buy something, you're doing math. When you're trying to calculate, this is from my high school folks. When you're trying to calculate the bell about to ring, I gotta run. How long does it take me to run there? I'm doing math. Coach, you play ball. You trying to figure out how many yards I need for the first, you're doing math.
right.
If I'm drawing a picture and I'm trying to do my art, guess what? I'm doing math. Math is all around us. Math is not in this thinking textbook. Math is the world and beauty around us. And all these children are doing math. We just need to show them how you doing math.
I love it. I love it. And that leads where you're encouraging students to talk. You find that out where they can become comfortable with their voice because sometimes it is a stage for educators and lose the student. So I love how you're talking about leading them and encouraging them to talk. Uh, so could you kind of touch on that? We're almost at the end. I know, and I appreciate you.
Let's go. Let's go. Track six. Track six. It's the same energy on the mixtape. So if you haven't checked out the mixtape, make
Yeah.
sure you check out the mixtape. Track six is all about let them lead, encouraging student talk. Children like to talk. Think about it. When they walk into school, they talking. When they're in the lunchroom, they talking. When they on the recess, they're talking. When they're at games, they're talking. When they're at home, they talking.
Okay. Yeah.
If they naturally like to talk, why not provide them the opportunity to math? Because I love to see children, and for me, I hate being inside the classroom. I like to be around every time I get a break, just to be like a fly on the wall. And I'm seeing them energetic, hype, doing all these things, and they walk in the math class like this. I won't talk. So you showed me outside this class you can talk, you can engage.
Yeah.
Why is it in math class you don't believe you can? Because I've created an environment that showcases if you don't know the right answer or you can't get it right, you're not valued. That's why they don't talk in your class. In my class, I like noise, I like talk, I like energy, I like all the things. Why? I know you can do it. All I got to do is help you get to the mathematical language so you can even talk even more. But in my class, the first rule is there are no rules. The second rule is I want you to explain to me in whatever words you want to talk about in terms of math. Kindergarten, the funniest grade because they're gonna tell you all types of stories about home before we get to math. I'm cool with that. Why do I want you to use your own language? If I can get you talking, if I can get you in your own words to explain the math in your words,
Yeah.
I can give you the terminology. That's the easy part. I just need to get you like a fish. I just need to reel you in a little bit. What do you and how I do that? Hey, what do you like to do? What's going on in your life? I'm thinking in my head. Then as I'm thinking through my task, I'm gonna make a context to bring you into it. Well, you're gonna lean into it a little bit and say, okay, let me think about this. I kind of like, okay. I'm showing you how math is valuable, and I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna let you talk so much. I'm gonna get you to the point of you're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna say, hey, dog, hey, pause, time out. Go record that video for me because I gotta let us do the talk. But you gotta let these children talk, and then you gotta get into. You have to assess them. I'm not big on standardized assessments whatsoever. Does every child need to show growth? Yes. Do we need to figure out a way to to what's my word I like to use to intentionally assess them, to humanize and use humanized assessments. Yes, what I mean, all that stuff I'm saying we're doing in class, assessments need to match that, because oftentimes we do amazing class and then they get to assessment. The reason they struggle is because we did not put them back in the box. Unlock the box. Who says if you showed me through a project that you built you could do math? Why can't my end of the unit assessment? Hey, go build a project.
Yeah.
All right, you like to draw pictures. All right, show me in math how you gonna draw the picture. That's your end of the unit assessment. There are no rules of this thing if we want every child to be successful and engage in mathematics. So we have to assess smarter, not harder, so they can showcase their thinking. Again, I get it, Chris. What about the standardized test? What are we gonna do about that test? That test. Hey, at the end of the day, my job is to teach you math for life. It's not to teach you math for a test. What if you pass the test and fail at life? What have I done for you?
Good.
My goal is when I can teach you things that can take you beyond, the test is going to take care of stuff. Why? Because in the earlier track, I talked about standards. So I'm going to cover that part. My goal is when you leave my environment for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, the rest of your life, you have the mathematical sense making that you can succeed in life and give back to the next generation, so you can see how mathematics can be used to make the world go round, how mathematics can be used to transform the world. Let's go, Doc. Coach, come on back. We got to talk about prioritizing what matters. Let's go, Coach. Let's go.
Yeah.
This is the fourth quarter, Coach. I'm giving you a now. This is the fourth quarter. Let's go. High energy. We
Right.
winning, but we up the score. Let's beat them, Coach.
So when we talk about this whole idea of prioritizing what matters, you kind of scratched on it right now. But time to teach math. Like, can you break that down to us? Like, what's the priority? Like, are we talking about priority standards? That's a term that's used in Mississippi. What do we mean by prioritizing what matters?
So I say prioritizing what matters most is just keeping it simple. What I just said. Like, time out for the foolishness. Children must learn math to survive in this society. You can do all that other stuff, and if it's not working, what are you prioritizing? Does your data show children are growing? I didn't say they passing the test. I said, are they growing under your tutelage? I remember I was teaching summer school one summer, and as I was teaching summer school, they showed up every single day. It was high school. They showed up every day. And at the end, a couple were struggling. And I was hurt because I take it personal when they're struggling and they're showing up. I'm like, this is not something not right. So I called my mom. She's a retired educator. I said, Mom, I've been teaching all summer. We're getting close to the end of the course. Most of them are going to pass. I got a couple not passing. And she said, Look here, boy. They've been coming all summer. I said, Yeah. They've been trying. I said, Yes, ma'am. She said, So the problem is you. It ain't them.
Ooh.
I say, Dang, Mom. Like she said, It's you. And that made me think about what am I prioritizing? If these children are showing up and they're giving me their all, I got to give them my all. And I got to showcase them to them the value and power of mathematics. And I have to, most importantly, make sure I am reaching them where they're at so they can get to where they need to go. If they're coming into your environment, they can learn math. They can do well in math. They can engage and they can be amazing. The key is, am I taking time to give them what they need so they can succeed? Oh, that was a good one, Coach. You take that one too.
Yeah,
Are
no.
you taking
Hey,
time to
I'm
give them
marking
what
it.
they
I'm
need so
marking
they
it.
can succeed?
So, you know, I feel like we're at a point of closing, and usually what I do is, we call it a 2 minute warning, where you have the floor, and of course you don't need, you can take 2 minutes, but that's just an indication that is close to shutting it down. So I'm going to step out the way and allow you to have the stage, and you got it. And let me know when you're done, and I'll pick it up from there.
Coach, I'm from the South. I grew up in the Baptist church, and you gave me a closing, so you about to. But in all seriousness, when it comes to teaching math, the reason I made this mixtape, Teaching Math Made Simple, we're getting a lot of data that's showing children are not being proficient in math, they're not learning math. And we cannot continue to blame children for the shortcomings as it relates to their performance. We have to look in the mirror and look at ourselves. What can we do better? And when I work with groups, I tell them to focus. There are three things I want you to think about. The first thing is, what do you control? The second thing, what is you influence? And the third thing, what are things that you care about, but that's just your concern? Why do I want you to think through that lens? There are things in education that concern you, but you would never influence, you would never even have a voice in. Push that to the side. Next, I want to look at the things that you can influence. When you have opportunities as an educator, I want you to focus on that when teaching math. What are things I can influence? It could be the number of benchmark tests we give. You may be able to influence, the standards that we use when it's time to revise standards. You may be able to influence curriculum. I want you to take a little time to influence. As a math educator, what I want you to do is focus on what you can control. For the last 60 seconds, I only care about what can you control. And when you think about what you can control when it comes to teaching math, you can control your instructional practices. You can control which tasks you use. You can control the context. You can control when you take that extra minute to make sure these children understand it. Those are things that you control when you close that classroom door. Are you doing what you can do within your control? Stop whining, stop complaining. We don't have time for that. We got to make sure every single child learns math and becomes proficient in math, because mathematics for a lot of children can literally save their lives, and mathematics can be used to get people to stop hating one another in this world. What are you going to do, not tomorrow, not a week from now, but right now, to ensure every child that comes under your purview leaves mathematically proficient? You have what it takes. You're an educator for a reason. This is your time. This is your moment to do what you were called to do during the short time that you have on earth. Make sure you're using mathematics as a realm, as a gateway for every child to see, I can do math. I know I can do math. The teacher sees me. My teacher values me. And this subject matter can literally transform my family. It can transform my community. Learning mathematics can truly transform my life. This is a subject matter. We are in a state of emergency, but we got to take this serious and understand, when you can control what you can control, everything is going to work out for the good. But mathematics is that subject matter that was here since the beginning of time. It's going to be here to the end of time. And it can change each of our lives for the better. And those children that you educate every single day, all they want to do is learn, why does math matter? How is it going to apply to my life and make a change for the better? Every educator out there, you can do it. I believe in every single one of you. Make sure you check out the Teaching Math Mixtape series. I got something for you. And I got some new stuff on the horizon. Let's go.
All right. So I can't drop my mic, but I think that's the mic drop right there. So I'm gonna set you. I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna set you in the green room, and I'm gonna close it out. And if I can have 2 to 3 minutes of your time, I appreciate it. So thank you so much, Dr. Childs, for just gracing this platform and dropping gems. I appreciate you so much. All right. All right, guys. Listen, when we talk about impact, right? So I don't know. I don't even have lesson plans. I, I'm not even teaching tomorrow. And based on what he just dropped to us, it's a responsibility. That responsibility is to take this subject of math and help transform. As I said in the intro, every classroom deserves transformation. Share this with an education, a math buddy, or whatever. Make sure you go and follow uh, Dr. Childs' page. I'm gonna put that back up there, and we're gonna close this thing out real quick. We want to make sure. Here we go, right here. Here's this mixtape right here, where it is going to help you have an impact. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. You have a great one. Peace, and we are out.